We're back with another Q&A live stream. Um, my apologies for not live streaming yesterday, like I said I would. Yesterday was my wife's birthday, so I actually was busy all day doing stuff with her. We went to the Puppy Barn, which I don't know if you guys know of. It might just be a regional thing, but it's like a place you can go and they have puppies for sale, and like you can just pay $1 and go play with the puppies and whatnot, and so it's really fun. So we went and played with some golden retrievers and golden doodles, so that was a lot of fun. And then let's see. Oh, I decorated the whole apartment for her and bought her some golden retriever slippers and a Mickey Mouse 90th anniversary figure set and some new luggage and whatnot. So I think she had a really great birthday. We'd had a bunch of friends over in the evening for cake and ice cream. So it was a good day. So that's what kept me from doing another live stream, but I think it was worth it. I think that was a pretty good excuse. So let's dive into today's fun topics. So, today we're going to be going over the random miscellaneous questions, which is the second section out of like the 8 or 9 sections that we have with this Q&A. So these are all the questions that deal with basically anything that didn't fit in any other category. So some of the stuff's Thomas related, some of it's, asking me what my favorite things personally are about, like favorite food, favorite car, favorite um, color, and whatnot. So like all those random questions have been thrown into this section. So we're going to just be covering a lot of different topics during this over the next hour. So hopefully I answer your guys' questions. If you have any random miscellaneous questions that don't quite fit any of the other sections that you wish I would have answered, you can leave it in the comments below, not in the live chat, but in the comments, and I will try and take care of them later when I go back through. And the last live stream and all of these will be me answering all the most recent questions, so that way I will have answered all the Q&A questions that have ever been asked to me, and that way I can just continue on. So yeah, that's my goal. So let's get started. All right, Brendan Productions asked, "Do you like Nintendo?" And yes, I definitely do. My history with Nintendo, I had a GameCube growing up. Actually, me and my brother, I must have been in like third grade, or maybe I was in like second grade. I can't remember. I think it was like second grade. But anyways, me and my brother, we saved up. We did a bunch of chores and stuff to earn money, and we both saved up so that way we could buy a GameCube. And we bought it, and we got Super Mario Sunshine with it. But then the other game that we bought was Sonic Mega Collection, and we're huge Sonic fans. And we bought that game specifically because my grandparents actually had a Sega Genesis, and we would play Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles at their house, and like we loved the Sonic games and whatnot. And so we got the Sonic Mega Collection because it had like I think 7 of the classic Genesis games, and it actually might have had even more than that, but it was so much fun. And so then we bought more games over time and whatnot. But I also had a DS later. But those are the only 2 game consoles that I've actually owned. Since then, I hadn't like I never got a Wii. I never got a 3DS or a Wii U or a Switch or anything like that. So yeah, that's my only experience like actually playing video games like a frequent amount on my own. I'm just not a video game person. I like to keep myself productive. So my hobbies are generally more work. So like my YouTube channel is kind of where I invest my time in for my hobbies and whatnot. So kind of my fun creative outlet. But yeah, I've definitely been thinking lately about getting like a Switch. My so just on Monday actually, my cousin he actually we were gonna go visit him after finals, and we were planning on already going down there and visiting him. But then turns out he and his wife and their little kids, they actually got into a little car accident and whatnot, and so they needed to take their newborn baby to the ER just to make sure because they were worried that he had a concussion. And so we went and we watched the 2 older boys and we put them to sleep. But my cousin just barely got the new Super Smash game, And so we probably were there for like 4 or 5 hours, me and my wife just playing rounds, just the two of us. She was mostly playing Pikachu and Kirby. I was mostly playing Roy and Sonic, and we were just having a blast. I think we unlocked like 12 characters for my cousin. He was like over the moon because some of them he had been trying for a really long time, but just couldn't seem to get. And so we had a blast. We were playing till like 1 or 2 in the morning and whatnot. So great game. I'm tempted to get a Switch in the future. I might just cave in and get one, but we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, I really enjoy Nintendo as a whole. I love Mario. I haven't like spent a lot of time playing a lot of the various uh, game series that Nintendo has. Like I've never played the series that Samus is in or Star Fox. I have only played a little bit of like Legend of Zelda, those games and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy the. I think Nintendo has some really awesome series and a lot of fun games. The games I really enjoy are like Mario Kart and Super Smash and the ones that you can like play alone, but also play in like a big group setting and like everyone can just have a great time. So yeah, that I quite enjoy Nintendo, and that's my thoughts on it. All right. Blue Knight the Hedgehog asked, "Do you like Sonic the Hedgehog?" So, following up from the last question, yes, I definitely love Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, as a kid, it was my favorite video game series. Like when I was I think like when I was in second grade, I can specifically say that like I concluded that there were only um, three series or three characters that um, that I really enjoyed that like I invested my time playing games for, and the three were Thomas the Tank Engine, then Star Wars, and then Sonic the Hedgehog. And that was about the time that Star Wars Episode Two came out, and that's the time that like Sonic Heroes came out on the GameCube, and Thomas, I think at that point, I don't think the sixth season had been released quite yet. I think it was just a little after Magic Railroad, and so it was kind of still in that early classic era. But that, like, I mean, I remember distinctly in my mind, like those were the three that I really loved in our classroom journal that we had to write in second grade. I remember writing about those things like every day, playing Sonic after school and whatnot. It was fun in 2017 last year. I was really excited because it was the first year that being older that I could remember that I had something from all three of those um, series having something new come out. We had Thomas had season 20 and season 21 and Journey Beyond Sodor coming out. Star Wars had The Last Jedi coming out, and then Sonic the Hedgehog had Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. And so I was really excited. Turns out most of those things that came out actually weren't that great, and so it was kind of a disappointment. But it was still really fun to have all three of those have something new come out in that year. Um, so with Sonic, though, I really like. I love both classic Sonic and modern Sonic. I don't know. I kind of have a special place in my heart for both of them, and I really think Sega could do a lot more with Sonic. Um, I haven't played Sonic Mania. I really want to. I mean, since I love the classic Sonic games, I just haven't gotten around to it, taking the time to play video games and whatnot. But I think I'd really enjoy that one. I wish they would do more. I did buy Sonic Forces for Steam and played that, but it was kind of a disappointment. Really short. They focused too much on trying to appeal to a wider audience with the having a custom character and the classic Sonic being in it. I think they should have just focused on modern Sonic and just made a great game around that. But who knows? Hopefully, in the future, they can do that. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie that's coming out looks horrendous. That we've seen all the posters for and whatnot. So I'm really hoping that they fix that, but we'll see. I just don't know when there has ever been a movie that they've interpreted a fictional character that's not human and changed them, and it's actually worked and been a profitable, successful movie. I mean, like it kind of reminds me of Thomas and Magic Railroad, where they took it to the big screen and they're like, well, let's change some things, let's make it different, because we're going to have it on the big screen. And I just don't feel like that ever works. I feel like movies when they don't stick to what people know going into it, it never works out when the directors try their own interpretation or change things up. So Yeah, but we'll see. I wish Sonic would get some good games in the future, but we'll just have to see what happens. The new Trains Duck asked, "Do you play Roblox Thomas games?" And I can say that I never have. I've never played Roblox actually. Um, I'm not even quite sure. I believe you go online. I'm not. Maybe it's through Steam. I'm not entirely sure. But Diesel D199 in his uh, gaming live stream channel. He invited me one time to come join him, but I've never gotten around to actually downloading or setting it up and whatnot. But then again, I'm just not a big video game person in general. So, but eventually I'll probably indulge myself and join him in a live stream. That'll probably be really fun. So we'll just have to see in the future. But I can't really add any more thoughts to Roblox because I mean I don't really know very much about it, so I can't really contribute anything more. But yeah, I know that there's some people who have, invested a lot of time and been able to make some Thomas videos and stuff using it, which I find quite interesting. Kind of an interesting medium to use to create Thomas content. And I think that that's really cool that some people are able to do that. So yeah. All right. Enterprising Engine 93 asked, "Do you remember the 21st night of September?" And I know what he's asking with this, but I'm not going to answer that because I'm going to answer the literal question. So, the 21st night of September. Um, I can't think of off the top of my head, but I back well, I've slacked off the past year and a half ever since I got into the business school. But before that, I actually wrote every single day in a journal. Like every single night I would write out my what I did for that day and kind of my thoughts on the day and different things. And so for about 6 or 7 years, including all of my high school experience, I have a daily log of everything I did. So I could tell you what I did on the 21st night of September for 6 years in a row. But I don't have the books on me and they're at my parents' house. So otherwise I would just pull them up and tell you 6 different things I did on the 21st night of September. So, but no, yeah, I don't have that, so I guess I can't. Um, and this is a beautiful picture of Enterprising Engine 93 on the right. If you uh, if you see any future questions from EE93 popping up in this Q&A, I pulled lovely pictures from his Facebook as the picture on the right. So this is my not revenge, but this is my response to some of his great questions. So enjoy the pictures as they come along. Okay, now this is a more personal question, so we're gonna dive into some deeper topics that are going to be kind of more interesting. So Jack the Collector asked, "Do you wear magic underwear?" And I think a lot of people are maybe they've heard or they're kind of confused about this. And so I actually have a video here that I want to share that kind of explains things because I think it can explain it better than what I can, and then I'll talk about it afterwards. So let me make sure you guys can actually hear it.
Men and women from various faiths and cultures embrace religious clothing to help express their deepest feelings and devotion to God. The nun's habit, the Jewish prayer shawl, and the monk's robe, all are expressions of the human desire to draw closer to God. Some religious clothing is worn publicly, some only in special places or for special ceremonies. Many members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints also wear religious clothing, but underneath their regular clothes. Similar to ordinary modest underclothing, it comes in 2 pieces and is usually referred to as the temple garment. Some people incorrectly refer to temple garment as Mormon underwear or even magic underwear, but the more respectful term is temple garment. Temple garments are worn by adult members of the church who have made solemn promises to both keep God's commandments and to follow Jesus Christ. They serve as a private and personal reminder of our relationship with God and our commitment to live good, honorable lives.
So yes, to answer the question, technically yes, I do wear magic underwear, but that's the incorrect. That's kind of a slang term that people have come up with. But what it is I mean, as you can see in the picture, it's very simple underclothing that like if you saw it, like if you could if you saw like it like if it was like poking out of the side of my shirt, you wouldn't notice anything of it. I mean, they're very simple, but the nice thing about them and what I appreciate about them is like they said in the video that there's kind of a constant reminder to me of the promises that I've made, that I'm going to be a good, faithful person, that I'm going to be faithful to my wife, that I'm going to try and help others, that I'm going to do good in my community. And so, it's a personal, private reminder that I think it's a personal reminder of an outward commitment. And so I really like that. So I mean, some people like to joke and call them magic underwear, but I think that they're really special and really meaningful in the fact that they do have a significant reminder. And I think that it's kind of something special, kind of like a wedding ring. How people wear their wedding ring to remind them of their spouse and their relationship to them. Wearing these kind of underclothes that no one can see, that it's just more of a personal reminder of why I strive to do good every single day and to help others and to be a good, wholesome person. So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. You can learn more about it at Mormon.org if you want to. They have more videos and things kind of explaining, because it is kind of different. I don't think most people understand it. It's kind of a surprise to them. So yeah, just something interesting about me that you may find interesting. So yeah. The Horrid Lori asked, "Does your family watch your series, the TCC, or Thomas the Tank Engine, for that matter?" And not really. Kind of. They like they're. I mean, they've watched some of it, like they've seen different things, but they're not like actively watching. Like as a new video comes out, like, oh my gosh, you got to see it. My wife does. She actually, she used to have. I don't know if she still does, but she would get constant notifications every time I put it. So she would usually actually be like the first person watching my videos. My little brothers, they do enjoy them when I pull them up for them, but generally I don't think they go out of their own way to watch them. They're kind of getting above the general age. And whatnot. But um, like my little brothers, they used to be more involved, and they would watch it and whatnot. But they really enjoy Diesel D199's shorts, and especially my youngest brother there on the right, bottom right side. He's constantly like, when I'm visiting home, he's like, "Jason, can we watch the pony video?" And he's always referring to a brony on the line. And so we watch those shorts all the time when I'm at home and whatnot. And so yeah, I don't think my family ever watched anything related to the TCC. Obviously, when I was a kid, my parents and my older brother would watch Thomas with me. There's a home video that I included in the video "My Journey by Rail," where you see me watching sing-along songs and stories, and I've got my hand together and I'm bouncing up and around like the like the steam cloud as I'm watching the song. And I had the hardest time getting a splice of that footage to show me actually doing that to the song, because in the whole the whole VHS, like our home video, my older brother that's there on the left, he was actually like he was just being silly, and so he would like grab me and like throw me over. He like kept preventing me from like doing it, and he would like sing the songs obnoxiously and whatnot, just being silly. And so it was the hardest thing to just find a little snippet of footage. But he used to watch it with me back in the day and whatnot. His oh, I accidentally clicked that. His favorite character was Toby. Not sure who Hudson's favorite character is. I know Chandler on the bottom right, his favorite character was either Gordon or Hero. He also liked Connor and Caitlin. But yeah, so that's how much my family's watched. I mean, they're not like super huge Thomas fans, but I mean they support me and my stuff. They've allowed me to tear up my room at times and turn it into a filming studio, and they allow me right now to like store all my trains and stuff at their house. So I mean, yeah, like they've been supportive to a degree. I mean, they're not like anticipating and know every little thing about my YouTube channel and whatnot, but I mean, they also, I guess, they trust me enough too to like that, especially when I was younger. Like obviously now I'm on my own and independent, but like back then, like they weren't like so micromanaging me, because I was literally broadcasting myself out to thousands of people, and they just trusted me to do that. So I appreciate them being open enough and allowing me to do those things and take those kinds of risks. So I appreciate that. Duck and Duncan asked, feet for hands or hands for feet? Probably hands for feet because I find hands are more useful. If I had feet for hands, I don't know what I would do because I feel like especially right now as a college student, like I'm using my hands way more than my feet. So I feel like that would probably be more useful. And then I guess potentially I could even be more productive, especially when I'm doing like crafts or customs, because then I could actually like grab multiple things and like move them around and stuff. That yeah, I'd probably do hands for feet. William Poletsky and Ethan the Idiot Tank Engine asked, for both steam engines and diesel engines, what is your favorite class of each type of engine? So I think Gordon like an A4, a Pacific A4, A3. I don't know what the technical term is, but Flying Scotsman. I remember as a kid, especially before his rebuild, like he was my favorite real life locomotive. My great grandfather actually had a Flying Scotsman model in his kitchen. They had it kind of in a like a china cabinet. And I remember as a kid just staring at it and being like, it looks just like Gordon, but green. And like I really loved it. And so that was like probably my favorite real life locomotive is Flying Scotsman. For diesel engines, I can't really say. I don't know. Diesel engines just don't really appeal to me. Like their shape, they just don't look as interesting. But I guess probably my favorite would be the one that's really popular here in the Western United States that Union Pacific has. I don't know the actual like term for it, but it's these like yellow Union Pacific diesel engines, and they like what they do is they're all like basically the same size and shape, but what they do is they stack two and sometimes three of those engines at the front of a train, and then instead of like a brake van or caboose or anything, then they stack one or two of them at the back and use them for braking and whatnot. And so those are probably my favorite type of diesel engine because that's the one that I've seen the most in real life. That's pretty much like all of the train. I don't think when it comes to actual like real life railway operations that go on in my area, those are literally the only type of engines that do anything. And so, I mean, there's other ones that like there's a commuter train but that's obviously a different type of engine and whatnot. But the ones that you see in general, just doing like normal work on the normal railroad that's around here, yeah, it's basically the same one kind. So those are probably my favorite out of those. Um, Northwestern Railway 58 asked, future plans for your series and life. So, yes, I do have future plans in my life. So, let me tell you guys a little bit about those, and I'll explain how they tie in, how my life plan and how my series ties into that, and kind of what is going on with that. And hopefully, that can help explain too where season 3 is. I know people are constantly asking where season 3 is, and no matter how many times I tweet about it or post on the YouTube community tab, people still don't seem to read those things, and they still keep asking in the comment section. So I'll just explain here, and hopefully it helps share the message even more. But basically, my future plans are right now I'm in school. I've got 2 semesters left, just finished up a semester right now with finals last week. And so I've got 2 more semesters left. So I'll be graduated in less than a year from now, which is crazy to think about. I will have bachelor's a bachelor's of science in marketing at one of the top 20 business schools in the nation, which will be pretty great. I've got a summer internship lined up with a really big wellness company, marketing cosmetics, which is kind of funny because I know nothing about cosmetics, but that's a good thing for marketing because, having to market something you know nothing about means that I actually have to learn everything and have to do the research, and I can't come in it with a biased attitude, specifically with preferences. That's one of the reasons why I actually would not want to work on Thomas, because I like as a brand as a whole, because I think that I would be too biased in it to make proper decisions. Um, I don't know. I'd have to like. I don't think I would directly apply to work for Thomas. If I was like later in life somehow approached, then maybe I'd consider it. But like me going out of my way to like I can honestly say right now that I do not have the career goal of wanting to like put myself in a position to work for Mattel or for Thomas and Friends, and work for the brand Thomas. Like it would be cool, but that's just, I know, especially working in the TCC, I've learned kind of what more about the background of Thomas and the work, and I just, it doesn't interest me right now. I'd rather go pursue other things. Um, However, if the thing, if something arose in the future, I'm kind of setting myself up with my career path right now on a like the kind of marketing that I'm going into is specifically brand management, which is, I mean, people would think of like the brand as in like what people think of a specific company's image, but it's more than just that. Like a brand manager is someone who, like, if you go to the grocery store and you're in the cereal aisle and you see all the different cereals by General Mills or Post or all these different ones, for every single cereal that's on there, you've got Trix, Cheerios, Frosted Flakes, and whatnot. There is a brand manager for each one of those. They're basically kind of like a mini entrepreneur for these big Fortune 500 companies, and they're the ones that are in charge of everything. And so that's kind of the direction I'm heading. And working in the consumer packaged goods field would actually, I mean, I could position myself eventually, and if I ever like really for some reason wanted to move over and actually do things related to Thomas's brand as a whole, because of Thomas being, a packaged good and in stores, and that's where most of the sales come from. But it's more than just that. It's the brand and appealing to customers to buy products. It's kind of, brand management is kind of like the highest level of marketing. It's brand is like physical products, whereas product marketing is more digital products. That's kind of the highest level of marketing that people can really get to before becoming like a chief marketing officer for some company, or moving up into even higher positions. Those are kind of like the top of solely just marketing type of things. But then, so like continuing on what I was explaining. So basically my plan for life right now is I graduate in a year, and I'm going to go work for about 2-3 years. Not entirely sure where. I'll figure that out later this year and whatnot. Um, I'll figure I'll figure that out, and then after working for 2 or 3 years, I will actually come back to the same university that I'm at now, which, like I said, is a top 20 business school, and I will actually get my MBA in marketing from the school because they have such a prestigious program, which would be really nice. Then they've got access to lots of great companies like General Mills, Hershey's, and Nestle and whatnot. And so I could potentially go work for one of those big companies. Not entirely sure. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going right now. So in regards to my series, I actually, obviously season 3 and 4 are partially filmed but not completed. And so my plan is that after I graduate, and in that kind of 2-3 years before I go and get my MBAs, to finish filming seasons 3 and 4. And I've actually been working on writing some more stories that can be used, that I can film on the remaining sets, because I still have a good chunk of sets and a good variety of them that haven't been filmed on yet. Specifically like Tidmouth Station, a lot of Duck's branch line, some of Thomas's branch line, like the bus depot, Farquhar, the docks, and so there's several locations. There's plenty of locations left to write a lot of good stories. So I'm trying to actually fill it in with some more stories, and I might actually film. Well, I might finish all of season 5 as well. So I could potentially, when I finish filming season 3, actually have seasons 3, 4, and 5 all filmed, and the episodes ready. Just they need to be edited and animated and whatnot. And so then I think probably before I go back and get my MBA, my goal would actually be to get those videos scheduled out for my own series. I don't know. It would kind of be a tough time. Obviously, my MBA would be my highest priority, and so that's kind of the what I want to do. That's kind of where I see I'll be able to finish seasons 3 and 4 and whatnot in the future. But then I do have I've got a big plan for my series to kind of. I wasn't sure if I'm gonna do it as a future season of my series, or maybe like its own little series. But I have something really big planned, and I've been working on it for quite some time, kind of as a side thing. But I don't want to reveal anything too much about it, but basically there's going to be something really big, and it ties in to everything that my channel's been doing so far. It'll kind of make more sense why my videos have been the way they are right now, and what my purpose is, and why I filmed in the order that I have and stuff. And so I think fans are going to absolutely love it, but I don't want to spoil it yet. Especially, like, I don't like revealing big projects until I'm really far along and can say like, yes, this is definitely going to happen, because I feel like there's so many people, especially on Twitter, that just like they boast of these ideas and that they're going to do some big plan or whatever. Like they got this great series lined up and whatnot, and it's like that's cool, but there's so many years out from completing it, and oftentimes they don't even actually get anywhere near completing it. They just drop the project halfway through, and it's like you built up this hype and you talked about it and you kind of exhausted yourself talking about it, and then you ultimately don't even do it. So it's like, why did you waste your breath on all of that? So I like to hold off on revealing my plans for things until like they're actually pretty concrete, and I can safely say that like that's going to happen regardless of what I do. And so yeah, I can say that for my channel, I can kind of tell you guys what the plan is for the future, um, because so obviously I haven't been able to film for a year. I'm not going to be able to film for another year. Potentially, I mean, it could be even longer depending on, I got to get a place to live that would have, be properly set up that I can finish filming. But basically, uh, I have videos. What I did is when I was filming season 3 during the summer of 2017, I actually my focus was to film my own series. Like that's all. That's always been my top priority, is my own original content. But basically, while I was doing that, every set that I filmed on, I had gone through and I had made a spreadsheet and I mapped out the time codes of every single classic series episode of seasons 1 through 4, and so I made a chart, or a giant spreadsheet basically that had it. And so I copied each set's time codes from every single episode, and then copied them over to the film shot list that I had for each set. So after I would finish filming all my stuff for season 3 and 4, I would then jump and film every single scene that took place in the classic series on that set. And so that's how the remake clips that you currently see on my channel um, have pretty much come together. And so basically, it's because I don't have a complete episodes done, which is why they're clips rather than uh, basically the full episodes. And so yeah, that's why clips are basically being released. So I can tell you, because they're done. I mean, they're scheduled. I could I could literally die. No, no joke here on this. I could die and my channel would live on for 4 more years, because I have videos scheduled out till 2022. So um, that if I do for some crazy random reason die, I think the only way the fandom will know is if someone who actually is tighter with me personally hears from family and friends that I have actually passed. Because otherwise, I mean, my channel is going to keep going on. No one's going to think I'm dead for quite a long time. So, which is that's kind of one of the things I actually hoped for. Is that my channel would live longer than I would, and hopefully my influence would last longer than my own life. But not just in my YouTube channel, in my connections, and relations in my life in general. But anyways, so yeah, that's kind of the future plans that I have for my series in connection with my life. So after I graduate from my MBA, who knows where I'll end up. My hope is just to keep doing my series as kind of a side thing for fun. But yeah, so hopefully that helps you guys kind of see and be a little patient with me and my work, and why my channel isn't releasing original episodes right now, or now it's more kind of in just a survival mode in releasing content. So yeah. All right. The Trackmaster Thomas and Friends show asked, "Have you ever been made fun of for liking Thomas?" Trying to think. Like, I don't know. I've had to play it very carefully at times. I think if you can word things properly and really be able to sell yourself to someone, then it's not as big of an issue. But there are times where people just don't understand, and they are just straight up rude and mean. Um, so I'm trying to like think back, because I liked Thomas longer probably than most kids did. I think I was in like 4th grade when I kind of stopped, when I kind of lost interest in Thomas with General, which is a lot older at that time than I think most people. But I don't like, in elementary school. I don't think I ever got made fun of for liking Thomas really. There was a kid who made fun of me for liking Sonic, which is really weird because like Sonic was a totally normal thing for a kid my age. But anyways, that kid was a moron, and I don't even know where he is now. But I can guarantee he's not very far in his life. But anyways, when I was older, I kept my YouTube channel more to myself. I think there's a question later that actually asks if I let other people know about my interest in Thomas. So I'm probably going to answer part of that here, and then maybe just cover it again later. So basically, the what I my YouTube channel I started working on it when I was in like 8th grade. So about 4 years later, I picked up my interest in Thomas and started creating my own series and stuff. And that was during the time, well, 4 years. Let's see, season 8 was coming out when I was in 4th grade. So I guess that makes sense. Then we had season 13 coming out around that time. But basically, yeah. So like, I didn't really tell anyone. I mean, some of my closer friends knew about it. And like some people kind of like figured it out because I remember one time being in the computer lab, and like I was in like 8th or 9th grade, and like so some kids saw me, looking up Thomas trains on eBay, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Like, and some of them were friends, some of them were a little. I mean, you know how like in friend groups, like you got some who are like genuine friends, and you have others in the friend group who you're just like you're friends by association. Like they're not really like actually your friends. Like beyond your friend group, you probably would never talk to them and whatnot. Anyways, so some of them were kind of like basically asked me like, well, like, why are you looking up Thomas and stuff? Well, luckily I had the cop out that I had a brother that's 11 years younger than me and another brother that's 13 years younger than me. And at the time they were like 1 and 3. So they're the perfect age. So I'm like, oh, I'm like searching for a birthday present for them or something. Like, but then some of them kind of picked up that like this was happening fairly frequently in the computer lab because we had like every single day we would go to the computer lab in this class, and so like, and I would get my assignments done early. So some people kind of figured that out. Some of them would like maybe tease or make jokes, but like I really didn't make nothing of it. Especially when it comes to like bullying and those kind of things. A lot of if you can not give them a reaction that they're wanting, they'll lose interest in it. And so that's kind of the big thing. So I just kind of didn't really add fuel to their fire and just kind of left it alone, which I think helps the most part. But then as my series, as I continued, eventually, by my junior year of high school, that's when my first season of my show had been released, and at that point, there was a well, let's see, like basically no one knew about my YouTube channel. But what happened was, I had started working at like a local restaurant, and basically in my time there, I can't remember how it got out, but because I did have a few really close friends that also worked there who were aware of it, but somehow word got out that I had a secret at my work, and so like there were a bunch of people there trying to figure out what the secret was, and the secret was apparently my YouTube channel, and so these people were like searching everywhere trying to figure out. Well, my boss actually found my YouTube channel. Like I didn't give him any hints on like what it was, like where to find, or that it was even a YouTube channel. Like, I mean, I wasn't the one trying to like contribute to this. Like I didn't want to make a big deal out of this. My goal was is that okay, let's start this thing, let's build it up, and then once it's kind of got a bigger following, or it's actually more successful, especially like having seen like Diesel D199 and Enterprising Ninja 93 and some of these other YouTubers who had bigger audiences at the time. It was like, okay, well, when I get more to that level, when I obviously have a bigger audience, then other people can know and whatnot, because then they'll see that like this isn't just me being like me just doing something in my basement right now. Like they can see that this actually is something that is going somewhere and doing something with it. And so like I try to keep it like a total secret and whatnot. But then my boss found my YouTube channel, but he was so chill about it too. Like he sent me a link to it, and he was like, "Is this really you?" And whatnot. I told him, and he was like, "Don't worry, like your secret's safe with me." Basically, like you don't have to worry about a thing. But he was like, "That's really cool that you do all that and whatnot." Well, then word had gotten out to some of my coworkers that our boss had found out what it was, and so then they were pressing even harder, like, "What is this? Like, what is it?" and whatnot. And one person even like came up to me at one of the like shift supervisors was like kind of putting pressure and told me like, Jason, if you tell me your secret, I'll tell you my secret. And I was like, I don't care about your secret, whatever that is, and whatnot. Well, it turns out they actually came out of the closet a few months later, and that was their secret, which I thought was. I feel like that's way more personal, and so the fact that they were trying to barter that to get to know about my YouTube channel was a really odd thing. But anyways, to each their own on that. But for the most part, like I've negated a lot of negative flack. I think it comes from a different perspective of having like saying that like I'm doing this as a YouTube channel, but I also like I mean I got to be genuine in the fact that like I probably if it wasn't for my YouTube channel, I probably wouldn't be as interested in Thomas in general. I'm sure I'd still watch things, especially seasons like 17 through 20. Like I probably would have just watched those on my own solely because I would find them entertaining. Just like something good with Sonic or Star Wars comes along, I'll probably always watch those because I'm very nostalgic. They were big brands that meant a lot to me in my life, and so I think, yeah, like I always explain it, obviously that like I had this idea, I could see that I could bring it. Like if you see the opening, like first minute of My Journey by Rail, that's kind of the way I explain it in general. Basically, that like I'm I'm a creative kind of person. Like Thomas was obviously very significant for me as in my childhood, but it's kind of fun because it's one of the few ways that I can like actually create something like completely on my own and whatnot. And so kind of framing it that way, I think most people will be very understanding of you and your liking for Thomas if you frame it in the right way in the right context. But you have to be very careful and you just have to play it by ear. Obviously, experience is probably the best teacher on that. It's kind of seeing how people react and whatnot. But true, genuine friends will, they're not going to hold it against you or anything like that. But there was a time senior year of high school where I think at that point I had like 1,500 subscribers or something. I was getting close to like 2,000, and it was in my AP calculus class. Our teacher, so Parker, if you've watched the video, Thomas helps Mr. Parker. So Parker was our math teacher. He would do like these fun texting polls at the beginning of class every single day, and I can't remember what the poll was, but I just for fun because they were anonymous. So I like threw something out about like 1,500 subscribers or something, and anyways, he was like, "Who is this? Like, who has a YouTube channel that has this many people?" And like he started like really hunting down, and I was thinking like, "Oh, I'm safe. Like no one here knows. Like I've got my own thing." Anyway, so I was just quiet about it. Well, turns out there was someone in the room who actually was aware of my YouTube channel. It was an old neighbor of mine, and he's like, "Oh, that's Jason." And Parker's like, "Well, let's go look this up." And so like my in my class, senior year AP calculus, there were even like some girls in that class that like I really liked. And so it was like so embarrassing. But he pulled up my videos and they watched like several of my videos there in class. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like all these people were asking me questions and whatnot. And I was just like, yeah, like I mean, my channel really wasn't super well established. It was much better than it had been several months prior when my boss had found out. But like, yeah, no, I mean, no one made fun of. That was probably the coolest thing though about that day is I walked out of class and obviously it was an AP calculus class, so people were kind of the brighter minds of the school rather than just like a general audience. But like everyone was really nice to me about it. Like no one like made a stupid comment or like said anything rude to me or like mocked it in a way. They were all kind of like, "Whoa, you actually like you create that stuff with those? Like that's actually really cool." And so I mean, overall, it went really, really well. And then it was fun because then my last project in high school that I ever did was actually the video Thomas helps Mr. Parker. And so it was fun that the last thing I got to do in high school was Thomas. And I got to kind of use that moment and then create a video out of it because Parker loved my YouTube channel and and it's always fun with that. So like that's kind of everyone kind of started to figure out more about my YouTube channel. Then I started sharing it more on social media and stuff. And just kind of over time as it's grown, people have found out. And so like people like I don't know, people haven't really made fun of me for liking Thomas in general, but I think a lot of it has to do with how I phrased it. The other thing is like on the opposite end of things being made fun of on the opposite end of stuff, like I can't tell you guys enough about how much like Thomas has seriously affected my career and the internship positions and job positions that have been offered to me and like going into job interviews because as a marketing major especially like Thomas is kind of what makes me stand out from the crowd and like that's how I got into my business school and whatnot. Most of the professors, and this is like crazy for me, like I'm so surprised every single time because they reviewed like 300 applicants per year to get into this business school, into this program for the marketing program specifically. And when like there's only about 100 students that are accepted, so it's got like a 33% acceptance rate, which is really low compared to a lot of other programs and stuff. Anyways, but it's been so fun because as I've been moving through the program and I meet different professors and stuff, like just this past semester, I've been in the program for a year now, but I was talking with one of my professors and somehow my YouTube channel came up in conversation, and she was like, "Oh, I know you." Like, she's like, "I saw your application to the school." Like, and she like went on about how she actually like watched my YouTube channel and this and that, and like that's like a really common thing that happens for me, especially like in job interviews and stuff. Like people who like, especially when I'm applying to these more creative marketing positions, like that makes me stand out compared to all the other students because it's like, oh, you're the Thomas guy, like, and they know that the kind of work that I've done in my channel has really helped me in my personal brand, and being able to sell myself career wise. And so, I mean, it's been a huge help. So like, I would definitely tell people like, don't ever shy away from Thomas. Like, please, like, even if people mock you or make fun of you, like, it can open so many doors, especially if you do it right. If you can use Thomas to show your skills and your willingness to work hard and create something, like you can land some great. I've landed some really great jobs. I literally got into a top 20 business school in the U.S. because of Thomas. So like, I can't stress enough about don't shy away from that and make sure that use that to your advantage. So I probably have gone on way too long on that, but I thought that was really important to discuss that and kind of point out that don't be afraid of it, especially if you fear that you will be made fun of for liking Thomas. Oh, little shout out to Henry NWR3 in the chat. He's actually someone who has been writing. He's a part of our writing team for my series, and so he's written a couple stories that are going to be in season 4. So great friend who has written some great stories. So glad to have you in the chat. Good to see you. All right, Super James 526. Have you ever thought about traveling around the world? Yes, I have. I'm not a huge traveling person. My wife is far more interested in traveling than I am. Like she watches. Have you guys ever heard of the YouTube channel, The Bucket List Family? Like she always watches that. She loves their travels and seeing all these different things around the world. The places I have traveled around the world, I have been. Let's see if you can see my mouse on the screen, I'll just point. So obviously I'm from Utah area. I have been California, Nevada area, kind of all around. My wife's from Northern California. I have family in Southern California, so I've been all around there. I actually have my stepmom's family is from down in Mexico in the northern part, state of Chihuahua. So I would go down to Mexico every single year. Not as much lately while I've been in college, but actually I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Mexico because we're going down there with my family for Christmas. So I've been there. I've been to the Midwest. I've been to Iowa, Missouri, Illinois area. I've also been on the other side of Illinois, kind of up in the Great Lakes area, Chicago, and whatnot, the Michigan, that kind of area. Then I've also been in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area. I've also been in DC, what am I thinking of? Virginia area. I've also been down in Florida, Georgia area as well. And then I've also been on a cruise that has covered, let's see, Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and I can't remember the other place. We didn't go to the Dominican Republic though. So that's kind of all the areas that I've traveled in my lifetime. I could have gone to Hawaii with my family this past summer, but I didn't. So kind of regret that, but life circumstances prevent you from doing certain things. There actually is a marketing study abroad that they do at my university, and basically they actually go around the whole world, and they visit like all these really big companies that like everyone knows of and whatnot, and which would be really cool because like I think that would be awesome to like leave home in one direction and literally come back in the other direction and whatnot. But it's like $13,000 or something for the whole study abroad. It's like a 6-week thing where you get to travel the world. It would be really cool, but like I just, as a poor college student, I don't have $10,000 to just whip out, and like my parents aren't rich, so like I can't, like I don't know, like I'm a little envious of those who get to do that in the in the program, those who are able to like who actually can afford that. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be cool to someday do. Um, but yeah, I'd love to someday go over to the UK and see uh, all the heritage railways and stuff, all the stuff that makes Thomas Thomas, basically. I know someday I'm going to go to Peru because that's where Lynette's family's from. She's actually, her parents are from Peru, and they migrated here in the 90s. And so, yeah, I think I mean, she still has plenty of extended family that are they're still. Most of them moved to the U.S. In the 90s, but there's still plenty that are down there. So I think it'd be really cool to go down there. So that way, one, I mean, that's Lynette's heritage, and I think it'd just be really cool to actually to see that area and whatnot. So those are kind of the main areas I'd like to go. It'd be cool to go to Japan someday, but I think the language barrier would be hard for me. Especially since like I wouldn't be traveling with anyone that knows Japanese. I'd have to like find someone, or I don't know. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts. It'd be really cool to do something like that, to travel around the whole world. But I don't know. I'd rather work on my YouTube channel personally and get season 3 done than travel the world. That's just me. All right. TWE Adventures and Merit Train Boy asked, "Have you gotten dirty looks by dabbing in public?" Um, no, because I've never dabbed in public. I think dabbing was really, really popular at the time when I opened the Q&A, opened the questions initially. And so, yeah, I think it's really funny that 2 people asked this question about me dabbing. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that like 1 person asked, but the fact that 2 people asked this, I think is pretty funny. So, no, never dabbed. Actually, I might have dabbed in a live stream as a joke. But yeah, never in public. So no, I've never gotten a dirty look in public. All right, the Trackmaster Thomas and Friends show, DJMD, and sorry guys asked, "Have you mainly kept Thomas a secret from your friends?" And so this is basically what I said in that last or 2 questions ago, where I talked about like basically what my history with Thomas and how if other people have known about my interest in Thomas and how it's affected me. So basically, I did while my channel was small. As it grew, then I started to let more people know, and now pretty much like everyone just knows me for Thomas, especially like meeting new people at school, applying for jobs and stuff. Like that's kind of like the big, like not to say selling point, but like that's what really makes me stand out compared to a lot of the competition. That they like really like, oh yeah, like they don't remember my name, they don't remember my face, but they remember my resume because I'm the Thomas guy, and they remember like because it. I think I've positioned myself in the fact that it's not just like, oh, he likes Thomas or oh, he does that, but I think I've done a great job tying into my resume basically how Thomas has helped me with work-related skills that are applicable to the job that I'm applying to, and so I think that's what makes it stand out. So you gotta like you can use Thomas to your advantage in these things, and you can position yourself if you do it correctly. I mean, it could hurt you because if you come across as just someone who's obsessed with a children's television series, someone who maybe a hiring manager looking at that may not find that interesting or see it as a positive thing. So you gotta really tweak it and work to find out what is the best way to sell yourself on that, and that just comes from experience. So yeah, yeah, for the most part, like everyone knows it. It's not like a huge thing. Like sometimes, like my group of friends, I had like 2 summers ago, I had a group of like there was 6 of us, and we were just like really tight. We went to high school together, but we were back in our hometown just for the summer, the 6 of us, and it was like we were always hanging out and whatnot. And like I've never in like high school and stuff. I had kind of larger friend groups rather and like individuals rather than like having a tight group of like a set number of few people, and like we were like a tight group that way. And so it was really fun hanging out with all those people because I've never really had that kind of thing before. And so we like there were times where like they would totally just like make fun of Thomas and whatnot, but like it's funny because they clearly don't know what they're talking about, and so they're just like making jokes in general, like things about like the train's faces and stuff. And and like I could be easily offended over those things, but like it's not. I mean, it's not worth being offended over. And on top of that, like they don't mean it in a malicious way. Like they're very like I mean they're just joking and having fun and whatnot. So I think like most most people have just grown to know that I'm the Thomas. Um, like I've become defined as the Thomas guy, but pretty much, yeah, like it doesn't really come up in normal conversations generally. Like it's like, oh, that's cool, you do that, but like they have nothing to contribute or really talk to me about, and so like we just move on to other topics or things just because like I mean they can ask questions, I can explain everything about my channel, but like after a while, like I mean they've learned all they wanted to learn and whatnot. So yeah. Toy Bonnie 19, how did you get introduced to the Thomas and Friends series? So I explained that in the My Journey by Rail video. Basically, what happened is my mom was babysitting our cousins. I think I can't remember. I don't know. I'd have to ask my dad the story, but basically, either she, my aunt and uncle had to leave, and so my mom either took me and my older brother over to our cousin's house and was watching all four of us, or they came over to our house and they brought a new VHS tape that they really liked, and it happened to be the Thomas sing along songs and stories. What's actually funny is that these cousins that I'm talking about, I don't get to see them often, but they actually came over yesterday for Lynette's birthday party. So it's like really funny that I just barely got to see them. And we were even talking about my YouTube channel and whatnot. But anyways, they had this VHS, and so my mom put it on for them to watch. Well, they lost interest over time. I was the one that became very obsessed over seeing Thomas for the first time. So like apparently what happened is I think it's like 35 minutes or something. Once the VHS ran out, like I wanted to watch it again. I kept begging my mom to turn it back on, and so I think I watched it like over and over and over again. To so much to the point that my mom asked my aunt and uncle if we could just keep the VHS, and so I got to keep the sing along songs and stories. And so my VHS copy is actually theirs, and that's the one that I was first introduced to Thomas with, and that took place. I was I was 2 years old, and it was a couple months later that I got, I think, the Thomas medium set. And there's another question later that asks about what my first Thomas set was. I think that's in the toy section. But basically, and I have more footage of me playing with that set for the first time, just like laying there on the ground, watching it. I think I'm in like my underwear too. But anyways, I'm like 2, so it's like a cute thing. Anyways, they yeah, so that was like I think my own Thomas set. Then my brother did actually have Thomas Earls. I think he had a Thomas and a James, but this was before I even liked Thomas, like before it like really stood out with me. And I remember because that was one of the things my parents talked about. Because actually the Erdl, really funny. So you guys have obviously all seen Erdls, and so the plastic part, like the running board, the buffers, and everything, the couplings and whatnot. Obviously we were much younger because they are chewed off. No joke. Like either I don't know if it was me or my brother, because I think he might have been like 2 at the time or whatnot. But anyways, he chewed off like that. So like in my Erdl collection back in the day when I had quite the large amount of Thomas toys, there was amongst them there was a trashy beat up Thomas that had no running board anymore because it had been chewed off. And anyway, so I think that was actually the first Thomas in our household, and whatnot. And then in regards to kind of the picture on the right. So then what happened is after I had gotten the Thomas medium set, the Tomy set, it was about I think it was like 4 months later or so. That's actually when my mother passed away in August of 1999. And then the day after my mom passed away, just in some way to cope with the whole thing, my dad actually went down to Toys R Us and he bought the Tomika Ultimate set, which is then the set that you see there on the right. And then what happened is for Christmas, about 4 months later, Santa brought me all the main characters besides Edward. So I had James, Percy, Gordon, Henry, and Toby. They were all there. And so then at that point, I have what you can see in the picture on the right, where I have all the main characters and a pretty good size layout, which is really cool because I had enough to basically recreate most of the main stories because I had most of the main cast and I had a large enough variety of rolling stock that I could remake most of stories and things that I watched because there was quite the variety. So yeah, so that's kind of how I got my big Tomy collection initially, which is, I mean, it's tragic in a way. Like, I mean, how that worked out. But my dad, he bought that big set to just in some way. And I actually, it's one of the very, very few memories. I don't have a lot of memories from the time of my mother's passing. Obviously, it's the age. I mean, I was 3 years old, but I think it's also like a psychological thing where like you put away those memories when they're that level of unpleasant at that age and whatnot. But anyways, I do actually remember specifically the first time we had this set because we stayed over at my grandparents' house immediately, like the days following my mother passing. And so I remember we had it set up in my grandparents' basement, and that's the only time in my life that we've ever had Tomy trains over at my grandparents' house. So yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much how I got introduced to the Thomas and Friends series. I think I got more VHS tapes as things went on. I don't have specific memories of when I got those. The toys, the only reason why I know specifically when I got those is because we have VHS tapes of when I got them, and like you can see me playing with them and whatnot. And obviously, some of them obviously tie in and correlate with certain time life events and whatnot. All right, Ethan P. How did your girlfriend get into Thomas? Well, when this question was asked, she was my girlfriend. Now she's my wife, so hashtag level up. But basically, she's not into Thomas like a normal Thomas fan, I should say. Like, which is one of the things that I've learned over time is that people can have a general respect for your own hobbies and interests, but they don't necessarily have to love them themselves. And so I think my wife finds Thomas interesting. Her mom's a preschool teacher, so like it's not foreign for her to have like preschool or childish like characters or topics. Being a common theme at her house. But basically, she she also really loves Disney. So like I have my Thomas, she has Disney. Like we kind of have our own things, and so she's been really good. Like I'll show her new Thomas things that come out and whatnot. I mean, I've kind of taken over our house at times with Thomas things and stuff, and so she uh, very very good at understanding and whatnot. So I think that she doesn't necessarily love Thomas as a series. She wouldn't go watch it on her own, but like she loves it and she loves me enough to appreciate Thomas and enjoy it with me. So yeah, and I think I would recommend to any Thomas fan that is interested in, especially some that are older that are trying to date and whatnot. Because I've been asked this so many times, like, what do I do about Thomas with my dating? Like, do I tell my girlfriend about Thomas? Do I tell do I keep that a secret or whatnot? And honestly, like you can kind of use it as like a test to see if the person is actually what am I thinking of? Is someone that's worth sticking around because honestly, they can weed themselves out because if they're not willing to accept your interest in some hobby, you don't want to have them around. And if you keep them around, you're going to make yourself unhappy because if they don't respect your own hobbies and interests, you're just going to end up in more of a toxic relationship, regardless of if it's Thomas or not. If you end up in a relationship like that where if you don't have a mutual respect for each other's interests, then you're going to be miserable. So I think, like, obviously, don't just like that shouldn't be the first thing. What's really funny is I actually did tell my wife on our first date about Thomas, which she was, and that's one of the things that stood out to me specifically is that it was the one time, like, it was the first girl I had been on a date in a really long time that I actually felt comfortable just straight up talking about my YouTube channel to because she had asked a question and it kind of led into that. I didn't just like bring it up out of context, but like no other date was I actually like comfortable enough to just like straight like I mean eventually I obviously would like I wasn't going to keep it a secret at that point in my life, but like but just like immediately being able to tell her and she was like so chill about it and I could just tell that she was different in that way. And so I think it you can use Thomas in dating to kind of help you weed out the ones who you probably shouldn't be wasting a lot of time on. So yeah, that's I think that would be my advice on that. So yeah. All right. Josh Proctor asked, "How did your mom die?" So my mother passed away because of a heart defect, and the fact that I believe one of her valves in her heart was when she was born, it was on the like in a wrong spot. Um, Not entirely sure. I can't remember, but basically, like her heart wasn't properly in sync. Like, have you seen the videos of like hearts and how they pump? Basically, like there's two sides to it, and they have to work in sync. But there was because of the way her valve was placed, it wasn't in sync properly. But it was kind of hard to detect. And what happened was, leading up the months before um, her death, what actually was going on is that she would be like exercising and she would like randomly pass out. And I think there was actually a time where like she passed out and she even like recalled a story basically that she like remembers like going towards a light type of thing. I think what she was at a gym, she was on the treadmill, passed out. I think she hit the treadmill, like it shot her back and whatnot, and she was knocked out. But she like when she came back, like she like said that she remembered like going towards a light type of thing. Anyways, it really concerned a lot of people in my family, and so they were going to seeing different doctors, like different heart specialists. Well, I think I don't know if they knew if it was her heart at that point, but they were doing these different things, um, basically to try and figure out what it was, and they were going to all these different doctors and stuff, and they couldn't find out what was going on because I mean, obviously, something like that is very hard. You can't easily see that, and I mean, we're talking about medical technology in the late '90s, so I mean, it isn't quite where it is now. So I don't even know if now they can still quickly detect something like that. And so basically, she they were unaware of what it was, but they knew something was up. And basically, they told her to limit her exercise and whatnot. But she had a hard time with that because she liked staying fit and being healthy, and so she didn't want to just sit around and be lazy. And then the story about her death. It's kind of interesting how everything kind of came together. But basically, what happened is a couple months prior, we were at as a family we had gone to the public swimming pool, and what happened was I was two at the time. I had wandered off towards the deep end of the pool, and no one had seen me. And I walked into the deep end of the pool and started drowning, and a lifeguard jumped in and saved me and whatnot. But my mom was really upset over the fact that she never took swimming lessons as a child, and so she never like she felt so terrible that she couldn't actually come in and save me at that point. And so like I think it really struck a chord with her, and so she over the next several months was actually taking swimming lessons. And so when she actually died, she was actually at her swimming lessons, swimming laps in the pool, and that's when she basically had a heart attack and whatnot. So she had the heart attack. They tried to resuscitate her. They rushed her straight to the hospital. A little more background to the actual story. Because it's yeah, even Thomas is a part of this story, which is really interesting. But basically, what had happened was, and in in some ways, as tragic as it is, you can look at the bright side of things, and I really think that um, you know, and I don't mean to get like super religious or anything at this point, but I just like one of the things I do want to point out that like things came together in a certain way, and so while like I could look at it with the glass half empty, like here my mother passed away, but at the same time, like there was a lot of things that really lined up, specifically with that day that and with my life that like I don't feel like God abandoned me or did this thing out of spite or hate or that he's this unjust, unloving God. And so, but anyways, basically what happened was my dad went on a fishing trip. So my dad actually wasn't even in town when she passed away. What happened was he was leaving with my uncle and grandpa and a couple others in the family, some of the older men basically, and they were going on a fishing trip up to Montana. And what happened is the night before, my mom actually like cleaned the whole house because we had just barely moved into our house, and it's the house that I lived in for about 15, 16 years of my life. And so the night before she passed, she actually cleaned the whole house up really nice. Like everything was perfect in the house. And then they like put us to bed and whatnot. And my dad said that his last memories of talking with my mom was she was just talking about how grateful she was that everything in their lives had came together so well, and that they were in this nice, beautiful house, and that everything was taken care of. They had two beautiful children that were sound asleep, and how everything had just gone together perfectly, and everything worked out. So my dad says that's his last memory, talking with her and whatnot. I think that's really special and really neat. But then my dad woke up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, got with my family. They drove up to Montana. They have kind of a special fishing area that they like to go up there. Anyways, he was up there fishing. My mom took me and my brother to our neighbor's house, our next door neighbor's house. My good friend Nick, he lived over there, and he actually, I'll talk about this later. Another question that's asked. Nick. So the reason why me and Nick were such great friends is because I had maybe not at this time, but kind of as we got older. Basically, I had the Ertl and the Tomy trains, where Nick had the Thomas Wooden Railway trains, and so we would kind of switch houses depending on which toy collection we wanted to play with, and we would play Thomas together. So we went over to Nick's house, and I mean we played Thomas that day, and we played Thomas. I specifically remember a couple of things Thomas related to that day, which is really odd. I mean they're very vague memories, but I can piece them together. But basically, what happened was we watched Percy's Ghostly Trick, the VHS, and that one stood out. That has the stories of like Escape and Oliver Owns Up and whatnot. Anyways, what happened was my mother passed away, and obviously we were over at our neighbor's house, which like looking at the glass half full type of thing. It like isn't like what a miracle it was that like that didn't happen while like me and my brother were like at the house. Like I can't even imagine if me and my brother had just been there at our house playing with our toys and stuff, and all of a sudden our mother just falls and passes away and whatnot. And so like it was kind of a miracle in the fact that we were over with our neighbors and everything kind of lined up the way it did. But anyways, so my cousins showed up to pick us up from our neighbor's house, which obviously like was really odd. And so I really wanted to watch the Percy's Ghostly Trick VHS again, and so my Nick's mom let us take the VHS, and so then we went over to my uncle's house, and we were there, and I do have one memory of watching Percy's Ghostly Trick at my neighbor's or at my uncle's house, and that was from the day that my mother passed away, because that's the only time that those things would potentially lined up, because I never owned Percy's Ghostly Trick VHS, and obviously that would be the only time that I'd ever be over there with that kind of VHS, and but basically, then what happened with my dad is he was up in Montana. The word had gotten out that obviously she was in the hospital and whatnot, and so my dad, he didn't. What happened is my uncle just happened to be by the car at the right time, and the radio had worked, and so they told my uncle what happened. But basically, it was like because they had a. I mean, obviously, you don't just like say something like that because you don't want my dad overhearing. Anyways, it just happened to work out just right that someone was there. They were able to find out, and they were able to tell my dad and whatnot. And then they immediately packed up and headed straight back home. And then they got home and whatnot. And I think my mom had passed away at that point, or she might have been. I think she was brain dead at that point. I'm not entirely sure what happened at that point specifically. I know that she was in the correct conditions that she could have been like an organ donor because she, had passed away in the hospital and those sort of things. But my dad, having such a tragic thing just happened, my dad didn't want that to take place. He didn't want to do that because he felt that like he just wanted her to be as complete as she was, especially for me and my brother. And so, yeah. And then, yes, we stayed at our grandparents that following night. My dad, the way he kind of phrased it to us as kids, he basically told us, like when you go over to play with your with your friends and stuff. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional right now. But basically, when you go over and play with your friends, sometimes your parents knock on the door and call you to come home and whatnot. And that's basically what my dad said after my mom, is that she got called home, and so it was kind of a hard thing to understand as a kid. But yeah, so then over the next couple days, like my dad bought us the Play-Rail or the Tomica World set and whatnot, and I remember playing it over at my grandparents' house, and I don't remember much other than that, but my dad like has told the stories over the years, basically how like I was very um, conflicted, really confused, and like I got really mad with my dad. Like, I don't want you anymore. I want mom, type of thing. As a 3-year-old would say, and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the story. I don't know if there's anything else I can really like share other than that. So yeah. Um, Lynette Zamora asked, "How do you feel about Disney?" Well, and if you guys don't recognize that, that is my wife who asked that question 2 years ago. And so, how do I feel about Disney? Well, I bought my wife a like 10 piece figure set uh, from the 90th anniversary of Disney for her birthday, or the 90th Mickey Mouse anniversary thing. So I'm not like a huge Disney person. Like I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself like a part of the Disney cult. Um, but basically, like I enjoy the individual Disney movies, but like as a kid, like I don't think I had a lot of Disney toys, but I like loved The Lion King and several of the other movies, Aladdin and whatnot that came out at the time. And so yeah, like I mean I like Disney, but I'm not like obsessed about it like some other people. And so, but yeah, like I appreciate, I enjoy going and watching a new Disney movie whenever they come out and whatnot. So yeah. Lexi Morgan asked, "How do you want to be remembered?" For a nice smile, as you can see on the picture there on the right. Just kidding. Anyways, how do I want to be remembered? I don't know. That's a hard question. I don't know. My like about a year ago, my grandpa passed away, and my grandpa, especially after my mom passing away, like grandpa, I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. And so the legacy when he passed away, seeing, his life story and the kind of life that he lived. I mean, he grew up, he went and fought in World War II. He lived a very humble life. He didn't have like, he wasn't super rich. He didn't like, but he had everything that he needed. And he has, I think, I can't even count. I think they've got like 40 grandchildren and close to like 100 great grandchildren or something. But I mean, like, so when I look at like his life, I can't say I want anything more than that and want to be remembered like that. I mean, he was a great man in the community, great, faithful leader that people could rely on, go to for advice. He was, he didn't have a lot of money, like, but you don't need a lot of money to be successful in life. And he had what was most important. And he the last time we saw him, he talked about how he felt he was the richest man on earth, because of all because of the family and the experiences he had in his life. And I think that's the kind of life that I want to live. And so I want to be remembered as someone who tried to do good continually, who tried to help others and focus more on quality rather than quantity and helping people. I hope to be the kind of person who doesn't just try and like, oh, I sent a lot of money to this place and so I helped thousands of children, like, look at me, I'm so great. But I'd rather spend my time focusing on individuals and helping them specifically, and being that kind of a person. So I hope I can be remembered in that way. I hope I'm remembered beyond just my YouTube channel. Honestly, I like, while it's been fun, I hope that isn't the only defining factor, and I hope I do other great things in my life as well that can influence and inspire others. Because I know that, especially like things like my journey by rail video, I've gotten lots of comments and things about how, like, that's been such an inspiration, or that's been really good, and really helpful, like that help people through their own difficult situations and stuff. And like that is great, but I hope I can do more than just that specifically. So hopefully, throughout the remainder of my life, I can accomplish a lot of other things and help a lot of other people. All right. Northwestern Railway 58. Man, these questions, what? These are all like deep questions. I'm having a hard time with all this. Northwestern Railway 58 asked, "How has God influenced your life?" Well, man, this is okay. So, I mean, obviously, in a lot of ways, I think that God has influenced my life. Obviously, like, with my mother passing, that's something that I don't think was just by chance. Especially the way that things happened, I don't think it was by chance by any means. I think He's influenced my life in how putting things in place, at certain times. and whatnot. One specific thing, like there's a speech that I've read from someone who kind of talked about how he called it human orbitals, but basically it's the like when people talk, especially at this Christmas time, when people talk about the story of like the nativity um, and whatnot, they talk about how like the star appeared in the east. One of the things that really stood out to me about the speech is that he talked about how, according to at least our beliefs, is that everything was nothing matter isn't created nor destroyed. It's reorganized basically, which meant that in the creation of the world back at the beginning of the Bible and stuff, that the star that appeared at Jesus's birth had already been created. It wasn't created at that time, which meant that it had to be in a set orbit in space to appear at the exact time and place that it needed to be. And in that speech, he goes on to talk about how God planned ahead, obviously, to have that where it needed to be, so that way it would end up in the right place where it needed to be. And he talks about how often in our lives people come into our lives at certain times in certain places, and how it was intended because of the ways that they influence us. So I think God has especially influenced me in the people that I've met throughout various things in life. And one of the great things that I've learned, and I would highly recommend to anyone taking the time to like write down a daily journal, to like just at the end of the day, maybe just spend 10 minutes, but like actually write out your thoughts on what happened throughout the day, because one, it'll make you a better writer, because it'll help you in school too, because if you can become better at translating your thoughts onto paper, that'll help you in so many ways. Just it's a good skill to get better at. So doing that, and especially when I had 6-7 years worth of journals of writing on a daily basis, and actually having like story logs, it's amazing that like looking back and flipping through the pages and stuff and actually reading these stories, and it's amazing all the little details that you forget over time. Basically, like it's amazing to see the overarching plots in my own life, the stories that are taking place in my own life, the themes and things that are going on, because it's beyond just when you're in a day-to-day basis looking at life, like you only see what's going on right in front of you. It's hard to look at the big picture of how things are coming together. And so I think taking the time to write a journal, especially on a day-to-day basis, to be able to look back at it, you can actually start to see how things are coming together and things are shifting, and you're being moved or influenced to do certain to accomplish certain things. And it's just amazing how life unfolds when you can look at it from that perspective and see how certain things, especially how a deity, how God has influenced. Like I've noticed how God has influenced my life, specifically by being able to look at how certain things come into place, and how certain things that He put in my path, whether it be like a friend or even heavens a trial or something, and how that has influenced, changed my course in life, and how that has opened up so many other doors or caused so many other things. And so I think that there's a lot of great things, but you have to take a step back and be able to look at the big picture, because at least in my personal belief, I believe that God is kind of the greatest storyteller that there ever is. We're as humans, we're very drawn to the stories of a hero's journey, where there's a kind of a conflict. There's the whole adventure, the story plot, and then the climax, the resolution, and whatnot. And I think that we're drawn to that for a reason, because that's we want to see those things in our lives. And I think that God is the greatest storyteller, and not the fact that He creates the most fun and entertaining stories, but he creates the greatest stories that teach the greatest lessons, and help create us to who we need to be. And so I think that that's one of the key things. You can't just look at it from like a small little point of view, or you can't look at like a small little aspect of it and think you understand all. Like you have to really step back and see how everything flows together. Especially if you're talking about like an omnipotent being such as God, like obviously He can see a bigger perspective and whatnot, and you can understand a greater perspective of your own life. So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts. I mean, I could go on and on and talk about like specific things, such like specific things in my own life, in regards to my faith and membership in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and whatnot, and how that, I mean, like Evans, you look at the picture on the left of me and my wife. We got married inside a temple, and for those who I'm sure most of you don't know this, but for members of our church, basically the temple, rather than being married in a normal chapel, we are a marriage in a temple is more, we call it a sealing because it's binding families for eternity, not just till death do us part. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things in my life that I could go on about how God has influenced and how He's put me in the right place for certain things and whatnot. So, yeah, I think, but one of the most important things I think is to acknowledge those things and just be grateful for that and be a charitable person in that regard. Um, so Thomas Productions, Jennifer Borano, Oliver Great Western Locomotive asked, "How old are you?" So I am 22 right now. I was born in 1996. There's a cute picture of me on the right. I think as like a 1 year old, maybe not even 1 year old. I got like two little teeth there. Um, but yeah, so that's how old I am. Actually, a funny thing about my age is I think for the longest time, not sure what the actual number is, but for several years now, my age has correlated with the current season of Thomas. So obviously this year we had season 22 come out. Well, I'm 22 years old, and going back, I think as far as season 8, I think I was 8 years old when season 8 came out. It's been consistent as they came out once a year. I've also gotten a year older. So yeah, that's just kind of a fun little fact about me. So yeah, that's how old I am. The horrid Lori asked, "How's Lynette?" Well, she's sitting right next to me, so I'll just let her answer that.
Well, I'm doing great. Thank you, Jason. Life's just life. My birthday was yesterday, so I'm 22 now, so we're on even playing field. But yeah, just still doing my music, still going to school, just enjoying life. Life with Jason's great, even though it's very Thomas filled. So it's Thomas and Disney filled.
So yeah, I think she's good. She had a great birthday yesterday. We had a lot of fun. A lot of friends came over and whatnot, and we went and saw puppies and got to open presents and have birthday cake and ice cream, and so it was a good day. So yeah, I think she's doing well. Carl Ryan 66. Oh, this is going to be the last question, by the way, because we've gone over an hour, so I'm going to call it quits at this point. Carl Ryan 66 MCG Thomas number 167 Productions asked, "If you were an engine, how would you look and why?" I don't know. This like, it's such a hard question. Like I talked about this when it came to like favorite characters and stuff in previous Q&A live streams, but basically with like Thomas has been such an influential part of my childhood, like, and Thomas always resonated with me. So like, I don't know, like I probably would just want to be Thomas. Like I don't know I would want to be any different than Thomas. Specifically, I don't know, because I like too many of the attributes, like because blue's my favorite color. I like Thomas as a tank engine. I like his size. I like his personality. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like I would basically be a duplicate Thomas. I also like the number one. So like, but I mean, Thomas would have all those things. So it would be hard to make myself different from Thomas, which is one of the reasons why I don't like make myself into my own original character for my series. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Well, I'm gonna call it quits for today. I don't think I'll have time tomorrow. We got to go to a wedding and fly to Mexico, so I don't think I'll have time to do another live stream. But basically, when I get back from Mexico, I'll start doing these again when I can, and hopefully just continue answering all your questions. I mean, I think this is like what, the 5th live stream now, and we've gotten through like, I think 1.5 sections of these. So there's like 500 questions or something, or no, there's 500 total. I think there's only 300 non-duplicates. So anyways, we've got quite a ways to go, but I'm just going to keep plowing through these live streams and hopefully answer as many as I can. So thanks you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this live stream, kind of a different one. We're talking about so many different topics and things. So yeah, anyways, I shall talk to you guys later.